intent here was to create sort of a dappled shade area where picnic tables and so forth could be placed for the church picnic. We have had tents here for that purpose, but these trees have not done that well, and one of the reasons is we discovered there's just too much water. The water that's watering the grass is too much for the locusts. And so there's a lot of dead wood in there. So if we cut back the water on the grass, we may give these guys a second wind, so to speak. There are some crepe myrtles around. That tree there in the middle of the patio is a crepe myrtle. We have 4 in the front, 2 which frame the St. John's sign. And this rose garden here was meant to be vegetation, and then one of the parishioners, more than one, said, no, I think we should have a rose garden. It could be a place for scattering ashes. And the building committee was saying, well, who's going to take care of it? And the lady said, well, we will. And unfortunately, I think all of those ladies have now passed, but it's still being cared for. And I think you've been
a few people from our Creation Care Committee have signed up to do that. Yeah.
Okay. The soil was so difficult in some places that we actually had to chisel it with a bar that was probably this high, that thick, with a sharp point on it. We had to chisel some of these spaces out. Jan Landreth and her son and myself and a few others did that here. And the palm trees that cover up the air conditioning units on the south side were brutal. I mean, it was like digging in concrete because the ground was so clayey or had so much compaction in it. We weren't sure they were going to make it, but they're really thriving. So
They're tough.
little too much. Yeah, right. Well, thanks to Ken and Jack Christie, this hill for the chapel has never looked better with vegetation. The terracing was a brilliant idea because it had probably had 3 or 4 attempts.
It's never looked good until this.
Fixing, yeah, including Mother Elaine's husband, who was a horticulturist, and he put some things in there, and that didn't work either. So, salute him.
We got to thank Jack Christie because he's the one that designed it.
Oh.
I was just a helper bee.
Oh, well, you guys did a great job. Yeah. Let's see. There is a straight back. There is a pool area, a depression area to collect runoff from the area that's been paved. It hasn't been well cared for. Nobody goes back there. Maybe there's a few homeless folks that have set up camp from time to time there. But the reason we ended up doing the landscaping ourselves is that we ran out of money. And the reason we ran out of money was because the infrastructure far exceeded our expectations. The need to put in sewers over this great distance, to put in cable for internet and power and so forth, I think it cost us a couple $100,000 over what we were expecting. And then we had to put aside money that would actually move this chapel, and that was quite an experience. I remember standing in the checkout at Safeway and reminded you of the Peter Sellers movie. And maybe you saw it, where the gorilla is driving this little red car around the square, and a guy who's been drinking a little too much came out, looked at what he was seeing, and went back into the bar. But anyway, they saw this building rolling down Lower Sac, so it was quite an experience. Let's see. The trees alongside Lower Sac are called pin oaks. They're a form of red oak that turn brown and go through process that all deciduous trees go through, but they hang on to their leaves until the spring. And the neighbors, of course, say, you know, when the spring comes, they have all these leaves that are blown into their yard. And they say, I thought I was through with this back in October or November. But anyway, they get to be quite large. And where we have the ginkgos originally were expected to be London plane trees, or other name is sycamores.
Yeah.
But they thought maybe that would be too brittle for cars to park near. And
It's too bad.
Leaves.
Sycamores are great trees.
yeah, they are nice trees. Yeah.
Don't break, don't drop limbs like.
Oh, they don't drop limbs? Oh, wow.
I've
Okay.
got two on my property for 50 years and they're.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Little ones, but not big
Yeah.
ones.
Okay. Well, this is, that's what was supposed to be there. And then the ginkgos went in because they lay down this lovely golden carpet in the fall. But we just should have left those posts in long enough for them to be established. Yeah. So, the last thing is the chapel. And that wall you see to the right was to continue all the way around the chapel. And then there were going to be steps down into an area. That area was to be landscaped, which would be where the larger scattering garden and meditation area would be. Once again, it was a function of dollars, so we couldn't do that. And maybe someday we will, but that's where that stands. And then on the north side, if you were to go out the north doors and take a right, there was scheduled to be more parking with nose-in parking kind of thing, maybe for 12, 15 cars, and that wasn't done either. When the church first opened, I think we had typically around 200 people at the service. And of course that over time, because of church politics and COVID and whatever, has fallen off. But, so that parking lot is still there potentially if things pick up. So I think that's about it. We can go check out the chapel if you like.
I have one little chip story.
Yes.
So, when the center meridian shrubs, do you remember, Patsy? We had gardening day, and I brought Anna, and you gave me the job of fertilizing the shrubs. And those, I've come a long way as a gardener. So I was sprinkling, and Anna were sprinkling, and Patsy came up. You have to dig it in. She had some little trowel. You have to dig it in. So, but I always see those shrubs, which are just have flourished, but they were just little.
Right.
So that's my shrub story. Thank you, Patsy. Thank you.
And I would have said I didn't have anything to do with the landscaping because I
You
didn't.
did. Well, I
Well, it was just so challenging to realize that this was all brown clay
Yeah.
ground that had to be filled in, and it was all done by volunteers. So it was really quite an accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
learned a lot. I was listening.